Val Kilmer was a Hollywood legend, a giant to the silver screen, and a devoted father. Unfortunately, all his success went hand in hand with unimaginable heartbreak over the years. On April 1, 2025, the unexpected news of Val Kilmer's death shocked fans and movie enthusiasts across the globe. The actor's daughter, Mercedes, revealed that the Top Gun star had died from complications related to pneumonia in Los Angeles, California. Kilmer was 65 at the time of his death. Given that Kilmer had already overcome throat cancer, his cause of death was especially heartbreaking to many fans. According to the CDC, pneumonia accounts for roughly 40,000 deaths every year, and some research shows that certain types of cancer and cancer treatments can increase the chances of developing the illness. Though it remains unknown what specific type of pneumonia Kilmer had or how long he had been sick, his passing resulted in an outpouring of love and support from fans and coworkers alike. Michael Mann, who directed Kilmer in Heat, wrote on Instagram, "While working with Val on Heat, I always marveled at the range, the brilliant variability within the powerful current of Val's possessing and expressing character. After so many years of Val battling disease and maintaining his spirit, this is tremendously sad news." Mann was just one of dozens upon dozens of Hollywood icons who expressed their sadness in the hours following the news of Kilmer's death. Francis Ford Coppola also posted a heartfelt tribute to the actor, writing, "Val Kilmer was the most talented actor when in his high school, and that talent only grew greater throughout his life. He was a wonderful person to work with and a joy to know. I will always remember him." Although Kilmer wasn't acting as frequently as he did in the 90s and 2000s, he was still working up until his last days. In fact, he was scheduled to walk the red carpet at the 2025 Beverly Hills Film Festival, where he was expected to show up in support of his friend, actor Michael Madsen. Nino Simone, the event's founder and president, shared in a statement, "It was a shock to find this out. I know PR was on the phone trying to get a hold of the driver, bringing Val for a 7:30 p.m. red carpet arrival. The story and news of his death were reported literally at the same exact time. Unbelievable and so heartbreaking. Our hearts go out to his family." Kilmer was also active on social media up until his passing. His last post came just 10 days prior to his death and showed some of his own artwork. Meanwhile, Kilmer's last video shows the actor putting on a Batman mask, paying tribute to a role that remains one of his most memorable to fans.
It's been a while.
Oh, you look great.
What was certainly intended as a simple nostalgic nod to his iconic role now feels almost symbolic, an unintentional goodbye from a beloved star whose impact on Hollywood and his fans will never fade. He may have played rock stars, superheroes, and gunslingers on screen, but off-screen he battled private demons, loved and lost many a time, and faced a life-threatening disease that forced him to go against some of his beliefs. Kilmer was a devoted Christian Scientist, and according to the religion, the cure for any disease or ailment is praying. Conventional medical treatment went against his religious beliefs, so when the Batman Forever star got diagnosed with throat cancer, he intended to stick to his religion throughout the ordeal. At the time, he was still denying his diagnosis, presumably because accepting it in a public manner and opting for medical treatment would go against the beliefs of his religious community. For example, in January 2015, Kilmer said, "I have not had a tumor or a tumor operations or any operation. I had a complication where the best way to receive care was to stay under the watchful eye of the UCLA ICU. However, it was later revealed that he'd undergone surgery for his cancer in 2014. The reason is heartbreaking, too." See, while Kilmer was a Christian Scientist, his children aren't, and the actor admitted that he ended up using conventional medicine for their sake. Talking to the New York Times, he said, "I just didn't want to experience their fear, which was profound. I would have had to go away, and I just didn't want to be without them." After revealing in 2017 that he had beaten cancer, Kilmer still maintained that prayer had played a major role in his recovery. During a Reddit AMA, Kilmer said, "People that know I am a Christian Scientist make the assumption that I have somehow endangered myself, but many people have been healed by prayer throughout recorded history, and many people have died by whatever was modern medicine." Sadly enough, his recent passing and his health issues in the years leading up to it were just the latest in a long list of tragedies Kilmer was faced with in life, going all the way back to his childhood. Val Kilmer and his two brothers, one older and one just a year younger, were raised by their parents together until Val was 9 years old. Then, in 1968, the Kilmers divorced. Following the split, the three sons went to live with their father. Val never really got over the divorce. He certainly didn't process the separation healthily while still in his own youth, at any rate. Despite living with his dad, Val described becoming distant from his father and at times generally despondent, telling The Telegraph, "I was quiet, more contemplative than outgoing, and things didn't go well between me and my father for a very long time." When Kilmer's father passed away in the mid-1990s, he and his older brother Mark would end up clashing badly as they tried to settle their late father's affairs. Perhaps the only good that came of the divorce was that shortly after his parents separated, Val began to show an active interest in drama, taking classes perhaps as a way to use acting to escape the challenges of his real life. According to a 1999 interview while promoting the film At First Sight, Kilmer noted that his struggles with his art started at a very young age. The actor didn't land the first part he tried out for, but it wasn't because he was not up to the job. Instead, Kilmer didn't land the part because he just couldn't bring himself to commit to it. Kilmer, a noted method actor, said that he walked off the set of a hamburger commercial because he simply couldn't convince himself to believe in the burgers. As Kilmer noted in the interview, he found that if he didn't believe what his character was saying, he couldn't play the part. Of course, this was a hamburger commercial, and Val Kilmer was 12 years old at the time. But with a few years of drama classes already under his belt and a clear sense of himself as an actor, he just couldn't nail the performance. As a result, he failed to land the coveted role of the kid in the burger commercial. When Val Kilmer was just 17 years old, a truly terrible tragedy struck his family. His younger brother Wesley, who was 16 years old, died in a shocking accident. Wesley had epilepsy and happened to experience a seizing fit while he was in a swimming pool. The teenager died by drowning, leaving Val heartbroken. Though clearly a more major trauma than his parents' divorce 8 years earlier, it was another example of loss in Val Kilmer's young life. Val managed to pull himself together, though, and that same year entered the esteemed drama program at the Juilliard School in New York City, becoming the youngest person ever accepted into the school at the time. He was still more than half a decade away from any meaningful success on the stage or the screen, but Val Kilmer was well on his way. Val Kilmer and actress Joanne Whalley got to know each other and fell in love while working together on the Ron Howard-themed action-adventure movie Willow, which came out in 1988. The pair married and had 2 children, a daughter named Mercedes and a son named Jack. However, their love story was not to be long-lived and would end quite badly. The pair divorced in 1996, and the split did not go well. Whalley long suspected Kilmer of infidelity, and according to the British tabloid The Daily Mail, he reportedly was courting world-famous supermodel Cindy Crawford. Kilmer and Crawford did later have a public relationship for a time as his marriage to Whalley was falling apart. Kilmer would later say that part of what doomed the relationship with his ex-wife was his full commitment to the role of Jim Morrison in Oliver Stone's The Doors. Kilmer admitted to spending the better part of a year essentially acting as if he were the troubled rocker out of a devotion to method acting.
What is wrong with being a large mammal? A big beast, like a tank.
Whalley had divorce papers served to Kilmer while he was on the set of The Island of Dr. Moreau. That film was directed by John Frankenheimer, one of many in Hollywood who would later claim he hated working with Kilmer. Frankenheimer would later tell the Orlando Sentinel, "I will never climb Mount Everest, and I will never work with Val Kilmer again. There isn't enough money in the world." John Frankenheimer was not the only person who openly hated working with Val Kilmer, not by a long shot. In fact, Kilmer managed to develop a reputation as one of the worst actors to work with in the entire American film industry. In 1996, Entertainment Weekly published an article with the headline, "Val Kilmer Makes Enemies in Hollywood," which included the line, "Many in Hollywood are loath to work with Kilmer no matter how big the box office payback." Remember that in 1996, Kilmer had already lit up screens in one of the finest crime thrillers of the modern era, Heat. He had also played one of the most famous characters of all time, Batman, in Batman Forever. And of course, he had been Iceman in the worldwide hit Top Gun.
You can be my wingman anytime.
Kilmer was still earning multiple millions of dollars, but his reputation for being difficult on set surely cost him plenty of opportunities. A sad irony is that it's possible that his interpersonal issues were caused by his efforts to go all out on any given project. By fully committing to his craft, it seems, he wasn't able to be a decent person to the people around him off-screen. In the documentary Val, Kilmer acknowledged his own troubled past, saying, "I have behaved poorly, I have behaved bravely, bizarrely to some. I see myself as a sensitive, intelligent human being, but with the soul of a clown." Although toned and taut as Iceman in 1986, by the late 2000s, Val Kilmer was middle-aged and quite overweight, and the tabloids and papers took cruel notice. In 2007, the Daily Mail ran a juvenile and degrading headline that read, "Val Kilmer goes from Batman to Fat Man." Kilmer would start to turn his physical health around a few years later, apparently beginning to take long walks on the beach near his Malibu, California home and adopting a healthier diet. By the middle of the next decade, his weight loss efforts had seemingly been a success. But of course, many in the media couldn't resist adding subtle barbs from the other end of the spectrum. So the new slimmer Kilmer was often described in very different but also unflattering terms. For instance, in December of 2014, the Daily Mail ran another insulting headline that read, "Gaunt Val Kilmer reveals dramatically shrinking frame while shopping at Levi's in Malibu." Harsh words about a 55-year-old man who had managed to slim back down to a healthy weight. Obviously, relationships ending was never really anything new for Val Kilmer, starting back with his parents splitting up before he was even in middle school. And then there was the relationship he had with Cher in the 1980s. She was 13 years his senior and already a world-famous star, while he was just starting his ascent to fame. Kilmer would say of Cher in his memoir, "I'm Your Huckleberry," once Cher works her way inside your head and heart, she never leaves. For her true friends, her steadfast love and loyalty never die. One very notable breakup was with Val Kilmer's ex-wife and mother of his children, Joanne Whalley, but the actor described his most painful breakup ever as the end of a brief relationship with actress Daryl Hannah. The pair became close while working on the film Hard Cash, and would spend quite a bit of time alone in intimate privacy at his New Mexico property. In his book, I'm Your Huckleberry, Kilmer would write this about Hannah. Lord knows I've suffered heartache, but Daryl was by far the most painful of all. Neil Young, I always loved you, but I'm afraid I hate you now. Why did Kilmer reference Neil Young? Well, in 2018, Hannah married the legendary singer. Val Kilmer became Jim Morrison. His acting was pitch perfect, and he embodied the ill-fated frontman to a T. And Kilmer loved working on the movie Heat, saying during a Reddit AMA session, "Well, imagine being able to say Al and Bob for the rest of your life. Not many people can do that. Priceless experience, watching all the actors do their thing. Loved every minute of it." But Batman Forever? Kilmer said he hated working on the film, describing himself as feeling like a puppet in a bat costume, according to the Daily Mail. And Kilmer initially hated the role of Iceman in Top Gun, writing in his memoir that he felt the script was silly. He even tried to botch his audition, adding, "I read the lines indifferently, and yet, amazingly, I was told I had the part. I felt more deflated than inflated." In 2021, the unique documentary Val was released by Amazon Studios. The film's description reads, Val Kilmer, one of Hollywood's most mercurial actors, has been documenting his life and craft through film. This raw and wildly original documentary reveals a life lived to extremes and a heart-filled look at what it means to be an artist. The film is an amalgamation of private footage and public footage over which the actor speaks about his life, or at least it sounds that way, given the first-person use of language and the fact that the voice sounds just like Val Kilmer. But in fact, the person speaking is Kilmer's son, Jack, since the elder Kilmer's voice was lost to cancer. Jack and his sister Mercedes were instrumental in the production of Val, having helped sort through some 800 hours of footage their dad had available. Jack and Mercedes also appear prominently in the documentary and did a lot to promote the film that celebrated the life and legacy of their famous dad.